So when are customers considered bad ones? Is it when they ask for any sort of help after they buy your stuff, or is it when they keep bringing back the same machine with mysterious issues that more than likely was caused by them? This mower is the end result of something very much like what I just described, but how does this even happen? So was it done on purpose, a complete unavoidable accident, or was it something else? In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Craftsman lawnmower, and the problem is that we're in the middle of a questionable motor swap, and what you're seeing is the future for the mower I'm working on. Now, if you've been following along, I had a customer bring back a mower they bought a year ago with some very interesting damage to it. However, since they were very polite and kind about it, I've decided to embark on what can only be described as a contentious repair. Now, I'm going to try and repair this mower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, some of the viewers have been very nice and have told me what their return policy is, which I really do enjoy reading. It gives me a glimpse of how other people do business, and at the same time, it gives me an idea about the person who's doing the fixing. Now, if you're a bit confused about the whole situation, I don't blame you. What you're seeing is the finished product of swapping the engine from the problem mower onto another mower that had some issues with it. Now, this story goes back about 3 hours earlier, so let's go back and see what the problem looked like. So here it is, a very gross mess, which is kind of strange considering it wasn't this bad when I first got this mower. Of course, here's the wheel that somehow mysteriously fell off. Now I'm still trying to wrap my head around how this even happened, but I soon realized that it might be best just to not ask. Now before I continued with the swap, I had to make sure that the engine started and ran, otherwise there really wouldn't be a point in continuing this questionable repair. So luckily the engine started and ran, which is great news for them. It was a bit smoky, but it soon cleared up, which I'm chalking up to poor handling while in transport. So this is the mower we're going to swap the engine onto, and as you can see, it's in really rough shape. I found this mower years ago, and the owner told me that it starts and runs, and it also had a new blade on it. However, come to find out, the reason it had a new blade on it was because they hit something that they shouldn't have, and not only did they damage the blade, but also ended up bending the crankshaft as well.
So why not just bend the crankshaft back into shape then? Don't they have jigs that'll help you straighten them back out?
Now the answer is yes they do, but I would advise you to not try and bend them back, only because bending them back could further weaken them, and that means the chance for the crankshaft to break off while in use will be a lot higher. Of course, you can do whatever you want to, and if you want to try and bend them back, then go for it, but I would like to just let you know what the issue could be with this sort of fix. Now, when I started this repair, the other mower was not part of the initial plan, but just like most repairs, one approach might look good, but as time goes by, it might evolve into something less desirable. Now on this particular mower, it turns out the blade adapter was stuck to the crankshaft by years of rust, and it wouldn't come off unless I had a very powerful hydraulic puller. Now for those of you who are unaware, typically the blade adapter stays with the mower, so for an engine swap, the adapters need to be swapped as well. Now someone did make a comment asking what exactly happened to the wheel that allowed it to come loose from the mower, which I didn't mention in the last video, so let me show you how it happened. So the wheel is bolted to the bracket that allows it to rotate to help change the cutting height, and that bracket is held to the rest of the assembly by a wheel adjuster bearing that's held in place by a retaining clip. To help show you what happened to it, I'll take off the outer retainer followed by the drive gear and then a pin, and then we can get to the bearing. So here is the bearing, and I should not be able to take it off the mower because of the retainer on the other side of the mowing deck. So how am I able to take it off then? So as you can see, it looks like the inner part of the adjuster has broken off where the retainer is supposed to hold onto it, and with this part broken, it's now able to come loose. So why not just replace the wheel adjuster kit instead of doing what I'm doing then? So if you take a look at the other wheel, you can see that the other bearing is also having some issues, which means the drive line on this mower is showing signs of severe wear. So instead of keeping it working, I'm just going to put this engine on a mowing deck that's in better shape. So am I going above and beyond to fix this mower? And the answer is a resounding you bet I am. Now remember, I do this as a hobby and I really enjoy doing it, and even though I get a kick out of doing it, I also want to help those who ask for it, and the nicer you are about it, the more likely I'm going to do it. Now it has been a few years since I had this mower running, so I better make sure the wheels aren't frozen to the axles. And as usual, the rear wheels, which are not the driven wheels, are spinning nicely, but to keep them working this way, I need to lubricate them once in a while. And since these wheels are spinning rather easily, I'm just going to spray lube on them from the front and the back. There's really no point in taking them off if they spin like this. Now, if they were tough to spin or stuck, then yes, I would take them off to clean them first, then you can spray as much lube on it as you want. Now, the front wheels spin okay, but I need to make sure that the transmission is working like it should, so I'll tie off the self-propel bar and then spin the pulley on the transmission to check. So as you can see, it would appear that the transmission is working just fine, which is really good news. And if you are curious, you can spin the pulley the other direction to get the wheels to spin backwards, which might be a cool idea for a project later on in the wintertime. Now, the cable to turn on the drive was a bit sticky if you couldn't tell by how it was moving. Now, most often you can fix this by just spraying some lube onto the inner cable and then working the lever a few times. But if it's really bad, you could take the cable off and then put it into a bag or a bowl and then submerge it with lube. This will allow the fluid to penetrate the entire length of the cable. So as you can tell, this wheel is very difficult to take off the axle, and the reason why is because there's a buildup of dirt and grime not only on the axle but in the bushing in the wheel as well. Now, both will need to be cleaned with brake cleaner, and then a generous amount of lube will need to be applied. I'm using lithium grease, but you can use whatever you have lying around. Also, don't forget to apply some lube to the bearing as well, otherwise it'll wear out just like on the other mower, and who knows what might happen then. Now, I'm going to say this out loud, but the manufacturers of these machines never expected them to last more than a decade, but if you keep certain parts cleaned and lubed, they can certainly last for a lot longer than a decade and in good working condition with just a little bit of care. Of course, I've seen mowers last 15 years with no extra care that still work, but they're just barely hanging on, with wheels that are about to fall off, wheel adjusters that are frozen in place, and with every safety device bypassed just so it'll keep working for a little bit longer. Having a long life is one thing, but having a good quality life is another thing altogether. After doing the same process for the other side, it's now made spinning the front drive wheels a lot easier to do, which means the drive for the mower should work a lot better as well. Also, don't forget to spray lube on the pivoting points for the adjusters, that way it won't be frozen the next time you need to lower the cutting height. Now that I know the drive is working like it should, along with all the wheels spinning the best they can, I can finally install the older engine on the better mowing deck. Now, this would have been a great time to prep the underside of the mowing deck with new paint and also a film to help keep grass from getting stuck to it, but to be honest, it's simply not worth it to me. Now, if you want to do it, go for it, but you're going to find out why I feel the way I do about doing this job. Now, if this mower was almost brand new, then I would consider doing something about it, but this mower is far from new and it's basically past its prime, so I'm going to let it have its fun and then let it age gracefully with dignity. Now, I did sharpen the blade before I installed it, and just as a reminder, all I do is put a cutting edge on it. I don't do a lot of grinding on it. Now, if you grind a lot of metal off the blade, you have to worry about balancing the blades afterwards, but taking off a small amount means it's less likely to need balancing. Also, on these engines, it might be a good idea to check that all the head bolts are still tight, because over time, they might back themselves out of the engine, causing some interesting issues. Now, don't go crazy by putting too much torque on these bolts, you just want to make sure they aren't loose, and if you want a torque rating for them, don't be shy and search for it online. Now, even though this engine was not having any real running issues or starting issues, it did turn out that some of the bolts were indeed loose, so I'm really glad I checked on them before giving it back to the customer. Now, the last thing I want to do is to give this mower back to the customer and then for it to come back with yet more issues. Now, of course, I can't check everything on this mower. That would take hours to do. From checking how tight bolts are and inspecting cables, that would be too much even for me. I mean, this isn't a used car lot where each one comes with a 150-point inspection. The main points I look for is that the mower starts, runs, rolls, drives, and cuts grass. Anything beyond that is simply out of the question. Now that I mention it, I have been thinking about getting something like a small 20-point checklist for use on the stuff I fix for the channel. Now, is it really necessary to have one? Not really, but it would give more structure to the repairs, which isn't that bad because it could make the repairs a lot easier in a lot of ways. I'll try to come up with a small list later on and try it out on the next few items and see if it makes it easier or tougher to do. The last thing we need to do is to check and see what kind of readings we can get with our pull meter. This will let us know how tough it is to push or pull this mower, especially since we just serviced the wheels. Hopefully we get a good reading between 2 and 2.5 kilograms, which is what I would expect for a mower like this one. And after a few attempts, the best reading I was able to get was 2.3 kilograms, and while this reading isn't as low as I would like it to be, it still falls into the range which I think is reasonable for this mower. After this, I think it's finally time to prime the engine and then try starting it. Hopefully it works like it should. So even with a soft and easy pull from my bad arm, it started with little to no fuss, which is pretty good considering the age and condition of this engine. Now luckily the self-propel seems to be working just like it should, however it is spinning just a bit faster than it was before, which depending upon your age and health may not be a bad thing. I do believe their young son will be doing the mowing, so I don't think it's going to be a real issue. Hopefully I won't be seeing this mower for quite some time other than possibly doing its yearly maintenance, but you never know, accidents do happen. I hope you understand that one of the reasons why I decided to do a swap instead of just replacing the broken part for about $50 was because the rest of the mower was in a condition that might cause more problems down the road. Now this one, however, is in much better shape, so it's very unlikely that it'll have any real issues in the future. So what am I going to do with that old mower then? Well, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I've got a few ideas, however, nothing is set in stone just yet. Now, if they had gotten a hold of me and basically told me that I owed them a new mower because the one they sold them broke, well, I'm pretty sure you know how that story would have ended. So my question is, do you think I made the right choice, or should I have said, sorry, no returns, especially considering it's been over a year? Hopefully you think I've made a good choice, and if you don't think so, it's okay to say so. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.